Good morning, friends. Tea's pretty hot today. I think I left it in the machine for too long. I was never much of a fan of really hot tea. I feel like a lot of people are like really into like scalding hot liquids, but I'm always just kind of like, into maybe just a little bit less hot than boiling. That's something that I truly like. Today it's kind of hazy out. Still pretty sunny, but it's like if the sky was like a buttermilk color instead of blue. Like it's not really cloudy, like the sun is still there and everything's kind of clear, but it's just, I guess there's like smog or something. So today, this is another request video. This one's actually from my mom. So thanks, Mom, for the request. This one is asking me what I would consider to be a utopic society, right? So if we lived in a utopia, what would that exactly look like? And the real thing that I would address in this situation is, if we are living in a utopic society, are we talking about the actual economic system that we are living in that's utopic and perfect for everyone, or are we talking about the actual life that people are living and how they are basically happy and enjoying life to the fullest? What do we consider to be more effective and important when creating a utopic society? And I feel like a lot of people tend to think that it's the system, the economic system, the political system that creates the utopia, right? That people respond well to their environment. I tend to think it's the other way around. I think that people's attitudes and how they choose to live their life and how they choose to value things are what drive a society. It's what drives and creates a culture, and what comes out of a culture is the system, right? If we create a culture that is utopic in essence and that people are embracing their own happiness, then from that we will create a system that will work. Because even if we do have a perfect system, if people aren't happy or they don't have that sense of responsibility to achieve their own happiness, then it will kind of not really work for everyone, right? If you've ever seen the movie WALL-E, for instance, that ship they were living on for 700 years where everyone was like really fat and living on these chairs and the robots basically did everything for them. I mean, that technically is a utopic society. All their needs are met. Everything is done for them. They don't have to worry about everything. Basically everything's perfect, seemingly, right? But we all watch that movie and we say, oh, I don't want to be like that. I don't want to live like that. Well, that's a utopic society. Everything is perfect. Everything's done for them, right? And then you have this robot that tells them to go back to Earth, this fucking shithole, because there's one little leaf that exists, and you're basically destroying the whole utopia that these people have on this ship. I saw this YouTube video about it where they like equated to the ship on WALL-E as being the Garden of Eden or whatever, and WALL-E's actually the snake who shows them the tree of life or whatever. And anyway, we don't need to really go in depth, but the reality is that if people aren't happy or they aren't fulfilling their full happiness, right, then the utopia is kind of pointless in that regard. So, if you're into Buddhism or anything like that, it's always about achieving inner peace, and that's the real utopia. That's the real heaven on earth, is if you can, no matter what your environment is, if you can retain a sense of peace and tranquility no matter what, you already live in the utopia. You already live in happiness or in bliss, right? And it doesn't really matter where exactly you are, what your situation is, etc. So when we're regarding a utopic society, it needs to come first from the people. They need to choose to be happy in a sense, right? And obviously there's a lot of difficulties in doing that. Sometimes there's mental illness, there's physical illness, there's poverty, starvation, all kinds of things that are limiting towards your happiness, right? Although people like to say money doesn't buy happiness, well, in a lot of ways it provides you with a base level of comfort so that you can start achieving a level of happiness, right? But even still, there is still always an opportunity to find some sort of happiness or bliss no matter what your situation is. And it's a really difficult thing to master, obviously. But I feel like if we desire to live in this perfect society, we need to address a certain level of responsibility in ourselves to achieve this happiness, right? There's plenty of people who have everything in the world they could possibly need. All their material needs are met, and they're some of the most miserable, unhappy people in the world. You can look at Donald Trump, for instance, who's president of the United States. He's in a huge position of power. He's worth billions of dollars. He has a pretty hot wife. You know, he's basically has everything that he can need materialistically. But if you actually understand him as a person in some regards, he's definitely not a happy person. He's probably spending most of his time either pissed off or irritated or feeling like everyone hates him. He puts on this image that everything is great, but in reality, from what I believe and what I observe, he's pretty much a miserable man. So there is a level of responsibility to achieve your own happiness, and it's not just going to come from material things, right? I mean, this is pretty basic shit that, you know, is repeated all the time. And I still want to address the importance of having material possessions in some regard, because those are things that, unless you're in a situation, if you're in a situation where you're completely deprived of basic needs, then you're not going to be able to be happy. If you're starving to death, it's going to be a lot more difficult to be happy. And then even still, look at someone like Gandhi, who went on a hunger strike. I mean, during that time, he's probably just in a complete state of bliss. I don't think there's ever really many moments of his life where he's felt animosity or anger or hatred or fear or anything like that. He was very centered and very, I guess, whole, right? He was a whole person, and he believed what he was doing, and he did it without violence or any judgmental or judgment, right? He wasn't pointing fingers at anyone. He just saw a situation that was not working and wanted to address it, right? And which I feel also is the best way to go about things, but that's another topic altogether. So I feel like if we want to live in a utopic society, it needs to start from us ourselves, not necessarily. I mean, if you're in a state where you're extremely impoverished, which if you're living in the first world and you're watching this video from the comfort of your home with internet access, then you probably don't have that problem. But there are people who are like that, so they need to work, or there needs to be something that happens to where they can achieve that base level of need. And then once they get there, that's the next step, to take the responsibility to make yourself happy. And that can be very difficult for a lot of people. In fact, that's why most people are miserable nowadays, because they can't seem to be able to make themselves happy, which, you know, isn't anybody's fault. It's just, it's a string of effects, right, that happen that make people miserable. And a lot of it is, people don't realize, is based off of their own viewpoints or how they choose to view the world. Like, I was like this a lot myself. I used to believe that the universe was against me. The universe is this, blah, 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 blah. It will always fail, all this shit. And it's that kind of stuff that isn't going to make you happy in the long term, and it's not going to help you succeed in any way whatsoever, right? So it starts with your own mentality. That's what I believe. If you want to have a utopic society, there needs to be a level of responsibility where you're choosing to be happy instead of focusing on other people, other circumstances, being jealous of other people, thinking that if you had what they had, you would be happy. It doesn't work like that. It comes from what do you need right now, and you don't think about what other people have or what you wish you had or something like that. So anyway, those are my thoughts. Have a great day.